Hello everyone. So glad you're tuning into our next video. This is really going to help us with cellular respiration. I'm going to go ahead and get started talking about, what does this do? Whoa, I guess nothing. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about just what cellular respiration is and why it's important. So what is it? So, cellular respiration essentially is taking in glucose and oxygen to make energy, and then that releases water and carbon dioxide. So, if I asked you, what happens if I give you one molecule of glucose? You would say, okay, like I need 6 oxygen and I'll make ATP and I'll release 6 H2O and 6 carbon dioxide. So, for every molecule of glucose, when we're talking about cellular respiration, these certain things are made. So if you double it or triple it, it'll double and triple what's needed and what is made in the byproducts. So this is just like the general chemical formula of glucose. I would definitely know this formula. But yeah, so really, this is why we're breathing and this is why we're eating, is really to make that energy. Both of these things put together will make energy for us and will also create water and carbon dioxide as a byproduct, which is why you breathe out water vapor a little bit and you create carbon dioxide. So I'm really just going to be going over this chart that I have. This is really just all you will need to know at the very basic level of cellular respiration. That's supposed to be mitochondria. So yeah, I'm going to go over each part of this so you know exactly what's happening. So this little part up here, the 3 steps. First, we have glycolysis, which occurs in the cytoplasm. Second, we have the Krebs cycle, also known as the citric acid cycle. Same thing, Krebs cycle, citric acid cycle. This happens in our mitochondrial matrix, and then our electron transport chain, which happens in the cristae of the mitochondria. Here's our matrix where our Krebs cycle happens, our cristae is where our electron transport chain happens, and then outside in the cell, that's where glycolysis is happening. So that's really all you have to know. We'll talk about what each of these does right now. So first we have glucose. That's our monomer. That's going to go into glycolysis. Glycolysis is the first step. Glycolysis does not need oxygen. As you can see here, this anaerobic respiration, glycolysis is considered anaerobic. So no oxygen is needed for our glycolysis, but oxygen is needed for the other steps, which is what that line is for. So glycolysis, again, occurs in the cytoplasm. So if anaerobic respiration takes place, aka if there is no oxygen present, glycolysis will make 2 ATP. That's all that's made. So glycolysis, which occurs in the cytoplasm, makes 2 ATP anaerobically, and that's all you will get. Anaerobic respiration also creates lactic acid and alcohol, which is why your muscles can cramp up when you are working out because you're not getting enough oxygen. So glycolysis also creates pyruvic acid, and these are the other products. So we have 2 ATP, as I said up here, 2 NADH, which you don't have to know what that means right now. Just basically know that it's a precursor for ATP. That's all you have to know. And 2 pyruvate. So this pyruvate, again, this needs oxygen. Pyruvate plus our oxygen in our Krebs cycle. This will in turn, it happens in the mitochondrial matrix, will in turn create oxygen, create water and carbon dioxide and 2 more ATP. So right now we have 4 ATP, glycolysis made 2, Krebs cycle made 2, and we have these other precursors, so 6 NADH and 2 FADH2, so now we have 8 NADH and 2 FADH2. Again, these are just energy ATP precursors, that's all you really have to know. These, including these up here, not ATP, those are just used, but our NADH and FADH, after that pyruvate is used by the Krebs cycle, we'll go to our electron transport chain where oxygen is needed again, more carbon dioxide and water is released, and now 34 ATP is made here. So obviously our electron transport chain makes our most ATP, 34 total, which brings us to a grand total of 38 ATP with aerobic respiration, 2 from glycolysis, 2 from our citric acid cycle or Krebs cycle, and 34 from our electron transport chain. So obviously oxygen is super, super important in making the most ATP because anaerobic isn't super useful. 2 ATP, that's not really going to get you far. 34 ATP though, that's a lot more. So imagine how much glucose we're taking in every day, and one molecule of glucose makes that much. And think about how much sugar you need to eat every day. So you need a couple million ATP to live, basically, because we're eating a lot of glucose in both our fruits, vegetables, starches, basically everything we have eats basically has a little bit of glucose in it. So again, glucose comes in, glycolysis happens, creates pyruvic acid. If there's no oxygen, then it will create lactic acid and alcohol, and now we only have 2 ATP. But if we have oxygen, this pyruvic acid will go into our Krebs cycle, which makes more ATP and some byproducts, creates more energy precursors, which all of our energy precursors will eventually go into our electron transport chain to make 34 ATP and more byproducts. This is all you really have to know about cellular respiration. I'm not going to ask a lot about it on the test. This is just good to know because you will have to know this in great detail in college, regardless of your major. If you want to do something with biology, you will have to know this. So yeah, that's really everything you have to know. You can use the other resources that are available to you. This is just a good way for me to really show what's happening. So yeah.